Hi, guys, and welcome back to the Backstage Bikini podcast with your hosts, Grace and Jade. And we are, of course, coming back to discuss the Olympia weekend of 2023. We are now on Wednesday. We're recording this, so we've had a good couple of days to sort of bed into the results and get our heads around where people placed and just sort of start ruminating on our thoughts, really. But out of the gate, Grace, what did you think?
Oh my Lord, it wasn't what anybody was expecting at all.
Nope.
Like any of the reviews that we watched.
Mm-hmm.
I have to say, I think a lot of it played into the fact that we didn't actually get much check-in updates from a lot of the athletes. Even
Yeah.
when it came to our review last time, we struggled a little bit to know, especially when it came to Jen. We
Mm-hmm.
hadn't got much to go off other than a few kind of training pictures. So in that sense, it's very, very hard to predict what's going to happen. And I know a lot of people had Laura as the favourite, and she actually placed a lot lower than what we expected. But
Yeah.
honestly, Jen blew it out of the park. And this isn't me hopping on the bandwagon at all. I think it's very, very easy to do that. When you see for
Yeah.
first place, you're like, yeah. But I wasn't actually a fan of her win, her look 2 years ago when she did win. But
No.
this year, I was like 110% deserved. She absolutely smashed it, and I can't wait to kind of go through her physique with a fine tooth comb. But yeah, amazing work from everybody, and the
Yeah.
motivation is always so high, isn't it? But there's such an inspiration.
Honestly.
They all smashed it. I don't think there was many people that it was like a really, really poor look or the peak went really, really wrong at all. It was just a case
No.
of that person showed up better on the day. Last year, we had a lot of things to kind of point out, things that they could improve on. But this year it was a lot harder. I think, they all
Yeah,
showed up quite well. But yeah,
I
what did you
agree.
think? What do you think?
No, I'd have to echo that because last year, especially, I think talking through sort of 1 through 7, 1 through 8, there was conditioning markers, and Jen fell foul of that herself last year in terms of coming in that little bit too hard. And there was a handful of athletes that just didn't quite get the conditioning on point for their bodies in order to compete with Maureen that year. But looking at this year, just incredible standouts for me. Ashley. I said in the previous video, don't discount her, and that's exactly why. She's just so consistent.
Mm,
And she really, really impressed me from the back again. She was stood next to Maureen, and especially when they were doing the sort of comparisons with the top three, and they were moving the girls in and out of centre spot. And she held her own on that back shot. Like, I really do think she's grown into her physique
yeah.
this season. So yeah, she was a huge standout for me, but just so impressed, so impressed. And Jen,
Hmm.
I can't fault. I really can't.
Yeah.
But yeah,
Yeah.
really
I think
exciting.
they all take on board the feedback so well. And
Mm-hmm.
I know Ashley had touched on it before. Like previously, there wasn't as much feedback, and they didn't have as much photos, so it's actually very, very hard to kind of analyze things.
Mm-hmm.
And over the last year, has seen them like really, really take on board the feedback, and you can see it in how they showed up on Sunday as well. So yeah,
Yeah, massively.
first place, we have
Yeah.
the beautiful Jen. Second, Maureen. Third was Ashley. She got third last year as well, didn't she?
Yes,
Ashley,
she
yeah.
did. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Fourth,
consistent.
fourth we have Laura.
Mm-hmm.
Fifth we have Isa, which was actually a standout for me, out of everyone, and can't wait to kind of go through her as well. And then sixth we have Amy, who is down from, no, she came sixth last year as well. Or was it
Yeah.
fifth? It was sixth as
Fifth.
well. Yeah,
Oh gosh, now you're testing me. Yeah, I think it's
I
fifth or
think it
sixth
was.
place. Yeah,
Yeah,
because she was
yeah,
going
yeah,
in
yeah.
for the top three, which
Yeah.
I really did think that Amy had within her reach, really. But yeah, the way it played out, we'll talk through it. So,
Yeah.
what are your first impressions of the top six?
So Jen, as I said in the review, I think I had her in like third or fourth, and
Yeah.
had I seen her check-ins, maybe that would have been different.
Mm-hmm.
Maureen will go through her physique in a moment, but I obviously had her first. But looking at the photos which are compared now, I can see why she did come second very, very clearly.
Yeah.
Um, I personally think Isa should have placed above Laura, and I'm actually gonna think I actually think she should have placed above Ashley as well. I was a big fan of her physique. Just a few little kind of conditioning things I would have maybe softened up a touch in the lower body, which we'll see in a second. But I think she blew it out of the park, and I think she actually has the potential to take that Miss Olympia title in the next couple of years again, if she keeps going on the trajectory that she is. But no, big fan of hers, and Amy as well. Just beautiful, and you'll see her in the lineup amongst the girls, you know, that kind of just a shorter nature as well, and she just really stood out. But what was your first thoughts on top 6?
For me, Jen, even through probably to the last hour, like the 11th hour, for me, I still had Maureen edging it. There's a few things that I think didn't necessarily go wrong with Maureen, but didn't help her, which resulted in the second place. So I was still quite on the fence with those two, even when they were doing sort of finals and things like that. I didn't know which way it was going to go. 3rd through 6th, I thought I pretty much had. Having seen the girls come out, Issa, completely agree with her. I think shape-wise from the front, she is incredibly hard to beat, just incredibly dense through that front shot, through the legs, so the lower body, incredibly dense. Back actually looked bubblier. And her and James really did an incredible job of filling out that back shot. Because when I know her first pro show this year, didn't quite go to planning, that she looked quite two-dimensional from the back. They hadn't quite peaked or found that happy medium with a peak. But in terms of how they turned up to this show, it was down on perfect from the rear. So really impressive work that her and James have sort of done over the last 12-15 months, because she looks like a completely different competitor from the back, completely different. But other than that, I think Laura Lee's just got a bit too big again. Unfortunately. And Amy and Issa, I think those two physiques at the moment are quite similar in terms of structure and shape. Issa has obviously that like near on impossibly tiny waist, but quite similar in terms of structure across the clavicle and across like sort of the depth of the glutes and things. So comparably for those two, Amy was the softer out of the two. But I think Issa just sort of nailed it. But interesting.
All right, so before we kind of go through the first call outs, outside of the top 7, was there anybody that you were very, very impressed with? I know you're a big fan of Ariana.
Yeah, huge. I have to mention her. Paul, in terms of like the way that her physique has developed over the last, again, the competitive season, she just seems to have got like denser over time, which is, I don't actually know how they've done it, but she looked like quite a fresh athlete in that muscle bellies towards the start of the season weren't that sort of, they didn't seem or appear that dense and that settled in. Over time, she's really brought a structure and a physique that I can see her winning it in the next couple of years. I really can. She will be a Miss Bikini Olympia one day. Structurally, she's beautiful, but to come up against the ladies that were competing in the top 6, to come up against them in terms of the muscle maturity and density, to be able to do that in her first Olympia, hats off to her and Paul. Like, incredible. So she's one to watch for sure.
It's incredibly promising, and it's exciting when you see athletes like that make that kind of progress within a
competitive season.
It's insane. It's absolutely insane. Raywana came 13th. So is her first Olympia as well, is it?
I think she's competed at the Olympia previously, but I think it was a while ago.
She has a beautiful physique, and she honestly smashed it in her season this year. I was keeping an eye on her. I am surprised that Ivana was in that, what do you call it, the Sea of 16 as well. I think at this stage now, like, the standard of athletes is just so high. And you have the likes of the Ariana coming through, and like Raywana, all that kind of thing, and even Phoebe, and they're going to be pushing these kind of people out. And Ivana is absolutely beautiful, but you just can't, you can't test against these girls, they're just honestly structurally insane as well. But yeah, Phoebe, we have to give her obviously a special mention, coming in 11th. I'm yet to actually listen to her podcast. I definitely need to keep updated with that. I don't know, was she happy with it? Jay, did you hear? Was she happy with it?
I haven't actually heard, I haven't listened to the podcast personally, but I know that Adam was very, very pleased. And I think generally feedback wise, he did a bit of a live between sort of prejudging and finals. And obviously he was ready to go.
Adductors. Did he say that he thought her adductors were a little bit,
just a little bit too dense and a little bit too caught in. But listen, like, she's another one who's progressively over the last 12 months, her physique has come on so much, and they had room to grow. The feedback from the last Olympia was that they had room to grow, and she's damn on done that. So I think Phoebe's another one. Phoebe's so consistent, and for a UK athlete to be as consistent as she is out in the USA, it's just a matter of time for her as well before she's breaking that top 6. Her and Adam have got her physique dialed in. They've been working together a long time now. I think it's just a matter of refinement for her. But she's always
I actually
there.
want to pull up her transformation. I know just
it's
because
always
need to. I know, I don't know why every time I click on Instagram it always goes on to Paul.
Paul, if you're watching, we're just super fans.
It just is, I think it's just like saved or something, I don't know. But yeah, Phoebe's transformation, and I think going back to what I said at the start, like, that's what it's all about. It's taking on board the feedback, and just improving. And I think, like, it's hard when obviously you get 7th in the Olympia that she got last year to not want more and more and more, and to get closer. And in Amy's case, okay, next goal is get within the top 5, but the sport is a sport, and these things happen, and you can only just take on board the feedback and improve as well. And that's what she's done, and she relishes in that. She relishes in that progress, and she's such an inspiration, honestly. But like, this I just thought was
glute
absolutely
shape,
mega, and so glute much shape. Fuller too.
And she looks so much more balanced, sort of upper to lower, because with Phoebe as well, she's got a gorgeous top line, a really, really beautiful top line. She's actually had trouble historically having to bring down her upper body in terms of mass. This is the most balanced I've ever seen her on the right hand side in terms of musculature, like top to bottom. She's got an incredibly like waistline and abs as well. So maybe like it'd be interesting to see, because she has a lot of detail through the front. You can see it there, more so than the likes of Laurie and things like that. Hers are a little bit more etched, which is a genetic thing, really. But you can see, so it'll be interesting to see what her and Adam do over the next couple of sort of months leading into the next one. But this is the most structurally balanced in terms of muscle, like physically on her frame. I wouldn't really be pushing for much more of this. I'd just be bedding it in and making it that pretty muscle that we
definitely
Adam talks about.
She's a legend.
Insane.
Sorry, back to where we were. Sorry, I'm getting sidetracked.
No, it's okay.
But I know for the YouTube it's good to pull up these people as well. So yeah, that was everyone that kind of outside of the top 6/7 that we wanted to touch on, I think. Okay, so first call outs, what was your initial kind of reaction to this? I don't think you were surprised with having
no I wasn't. I had hoped, like, in my heart, that Phoebe would be there. I know she was like split in center with Jordan Lee in second call outs, which is incredible, but first call outs, not surprised at all. Ashlyn Little, again, she's somebody that we didn't really speak about in the predictions, but somebody that's been winning shows left, right, and center. A lot of density, a lot of muscle in that first call out. Ariana, wasn't surprised to see her there at all. I think I don't know whether you watched any of the lives or anything like that on Instagram and things like that, Grace, but it was funny when they had the first call outs and they were moving all the girls around, and Laura Lee seemed to be splitting center with, I think it was Jen or Maureen, and then they did the top 3 confirmations and said Maureen, Jen and Ashley, if you all leave the stage, and everybody was like, because up until that point everybody very much thought that Laura Lee was in the mix for the win, hugely. So that was a big that was a big sort of indicator straight away that they weren't looking at it, and I don't think anybody expected it at all. But yeah, the
So
first
what do
call
you,
out.
yeah, I can't argue with this first call out at
No,
all. Like there's nothing that there's nobody that I think, of course, you know, we love Phoebe and stuff, but Ariana with the improvements, and Ashlyn, she is very, very consistent, and we've seen her this year. I can't argue with this.
no,
These 8
no.
ladies in front here.
Every single one deserved a spot there.
Yeah,
100%.
no, and like with Laura Lee, like I love her physique, don't get me wrong. I've been such a fan of her for so long, and I think, you know, a lot of people are. But when I see this lineup, like, she doesn't stand out to me as much as even, you know, Amy and Ariana do. And I think she's a massive inspiration with her training, and, you know, she has amazing glutes. But and even with the Arnolds this year, I was like, yes, yes, yes. But for some reason, when I see her on the Olympia stage, she doesn't do that for me. I haven't seen it yet. So I don't know, is there like a totally different, you know, peak, or what they did for the Arnolds this year? Or was it just that the other 6-7 ladies were just so on point this time, but she didn't stand out as much as well. And to be honest, Isa kind of stood out a little bit more looking at this photo as well.
Yeah.
Did you get the same when you were watching the live stream in terms of the stage presence?
Yeah, massively. I mean, I think the differentiation between sort of 4th and 5th for me between Laura Lee and Isa, I think it's boiled down to conditioning. I think Isa's looks that little bit more dense than Laura Lee, but then arguably Laura Lee, I think, has developed her lower body a little bit too much in this off season, because in terms of like sort of muscular balance, she looked that little bit heavier through the bottom, even though her conditioning was very symmetrical. That's one thing that you will say about Laura Lee, is that from a conditioning standpoint, it doesn't ever seem to be like one part of her body comes in leaner than the other. She sort of sucks in everywhere, and like I don't know whether you agree with that, but in terms of the difference between 4th and 5th, I think they've awarded Laura Lee's conditioning slightly above Isa, just because in order for Isa to get that sort of detail through the back, obviously she's built a great deal of brand new muscle tissue, which will be that little bit harder to pull in even on the best physiques in the world. So because it's new tissue, they'll have been prioritizing, obviously saving as much of that as possible, but I think it's compensated in order to get her in through the back. She's compensated through the front, especially through the quad, a little bit too dense for my liking, but I think that's where 4th and 5th have sort of been separated. But
I'm just such a big fan of
beautiful.
Isa. Yeah. I have to say, right, and I'm going to be just totally honest, at the very start, I wasn't a fan of the posing. I found it very kind of like IFBB elite. I don't know if with all the hand movements.
Yeah, a little bit almost wellnessy, because the wellness girls really are flamboyant. So I wonder if that's maybe where she's taken her.
Yeah, that just kind of threw me off at the start. I was like, I'm not a big fan of all that. Do you know what I mean? But that's just me. In terms of, I agree with her condition. I think it's night and day from last year, and I think massive fair play to her and Kim for, I suppose, like, redemption. And it's the same with Jen. Like, there is a massive redemption with this year's Olympia, and I think that they can take with you is knowing that they've made the necessary improvements, fitting the criteria a lot better, you know. And like I said before with Laura, like, there's a lot of juggling parts. She has a lot of tissue, and it's very easy to get that peak wrong, isn't it? Like, so I think fair play for them to have such improvements this year with the peak, and to come in a little bit better with the condition and much better fullness, because everybody was chatting about it last year. Everyone was chatting about how flat she was coming in and how lean it was, and, you know, there's massive hype obviously after the Arnolds and stuff. So, you know, even just her confidence and data for them to go off into next shows. But yeah, it is absolutely beautiful. You know, you can't fault her, and she's just absolutely stunning.
She's
I think
beautiful.
Like, in terms of her actual beauty, like, you can't fault it at all. The bikini color as well, I wanted to touch on, because I did think it was a little bit, I didn't know if it was her, very much her. And I know she's very like a purple person, but I've never seen this kind of blue.
No, it's almost tealy under the lights. I don't know whether that's the edit. But it did pop. But there was quite a few different bikini colors. I know Jen went to her OG bikini
Yeah.
color green, and there was quite a few greens actually in the top 6. So yeah, I mean, I
Very
personally
similar.
liked it. Yeah, I personally liked it. But only, I mean, again, like there's a few poses where she was sort of transitioning, especially with both hands on the hips, where from a muscularity standpoint you can really see that imbalance. And I'm saying imbalance like broadly, like she is still an elite athlete, but in terms of her placing and why she's not necessarily took the win, the upper body just looks a little bit slight compared to the lower body, even in that transition pose. So I think it's just, she trains damn hard, she trains incredibly hard, and she eats as well. So I think a combination of the two is going to result in added tissue. Like you can't,
it'll be interesting to see what they
food.
do over the next while with somebody who trains that hard and has that much tissue, like how they're going to approach things. And I know Adam had said like they do love to train, and you can't really tell somebody to not train or train differently. And I know she was back in the gym like whacking out a leg session, I think yesterday or the day before yesterday, so you can't keep her away.
A good couple of plates aside as well. She trains hard and
she's
heavy.
An animal. Yeah. Sorry, so that was, you know, I suppose the comparison between 4th and 5th, and you can see the condition here, can't you? But I'm such a big Isa fan, and I would absolutely love her to win the Olympia again in the near future. But I think 100%. Once they get the condition, let's pull her up actually, because so many people are a fan of her. Like if you weren't to know, I suppose the ins and outs of bikini, and the criteria and the condition, what they look for, like a lot of people, you know, if you're interested in bodybuilding, would be like, yeah, Isa, you know, they see the big lats and all that names. Kind of stuff.
But I think there was a lot of questions as well. Adam got absolutely peppered with questions about why the X frame isn't for bikini. And I think the more you educate yourself in this sport, the easier it is to understand the placings. We're all going to have our favorite bodies at the end of the day. Like we say it all the time, the beauty of bikini is that you can bring your own version of this criteria, and it's not going to look the same on every single body. But I think the more you understand that it's more of an S shape, it's an hourglass, it's softer, it's not supposed to be extreme. And I think even like talking about crossovers between federations, they still look for different things. Just as an example, PCA look for an X frame. So I mean, Isa still has an X frame. She just displays it incredibly well to meet the criteria. Because if Isa really wanted to, if she wanted to push any sort of muscle mass and sort of muscle gaining, she could step into figure tomorrow because she has a genetic structure for it. So she's an anomaly in that respect, in that she has that extreme X frame, but still manages to mold her body to suit this criteria, which is an incredibly impressive thing to do in this, especially with bikini right now, because they are moving very, very far away from the X frame.
And I think if you compare Isa's front pose and her lats to even Jen's when she's posing, like I actually really, really noticed it with Jen this year, is she's not flaring her lats at all. No, she's very, very much relaxed. And, you know, when you're getting taught posing and stuff, like, well, obviously not as amateurs because we don't have that yet, but like you're told just relax, you know, and it's not this kind of like excessive flare. But that's what Jen was doing. Just like, I look like this, do you know what I mean? But there's a big, big difference between Isa and Jen in that sense. But I was such a fan of her glutes. I know you'd said it yourself, Jade, but the Isa that we saw a few months ago, you know, when we were all really, really excited for it, and we were like, oh, do you know what we saw on stage was just totally different. And even, you know, at last year's Olympia, you're looking at the front shot and it's just wow. And then it's a bit of a disappointment from the back, but there wasn't as much of an extreme kind of difference when she turned around, you know, that kind of way. There wasn't a disappointment. It was more like fair play. The improvements were insane, and what they've done here. And she really, really stood around. Like, do you know, when we used to compare the back shots and you could really see it, you know, let me see if I can pull it up here.
It's just the upper outer glute, wasn't it, that sort of got lost, and the depth from the back. So it was almost like, when I say two-dimensional, you could see the outskirts but it didn't bubble out. Whereas you look at Maureen and Jen, and especially Laura Lee, you can't miss her glutes. Like, look at that bubble. They look three-dimensional, whereas in the earlier shows, Issa simply didn't have that, but they nailed it.
It's like, but she doesn't stand out. She doesn't stand out for the wrong reasons at all. Like she deserves to very, very much be up there, whereas previously it was like she was kind of up there because of her front shot, not because of anything else. So
I think they've really balanced things.
To see that.
Yeah.
It's
and
awesome.
even from a posing standpoint, if you watch Issa's posing as well, like her front shot, she's dropping her back shoulder a little bit and keeping it out of sight, because again, she has that extreme X frame. Look there, you can see it. She's dropping it. So she's making herself look more like an S silhouette, rather than really sort of twisting and pulling that back shoulder forward to accentuate that top line. Very clever. Very clever. That's someone who knows their body and knows how to pose.
Yeah, and I know she's gotten a lot better at the posing. In recent with the new coach and everything, but her posing I just love everything about her since she's won in 2019. Like I've been such a big fan as well. I think she's just beautiful, and like I said, I really, really want her to take it again. Is this year? Yes, like this is just Olympia. Amazing. And I know she'd made those in improvements with this back pose, and you can see that lat flare there. But I think it is just that little bit of maybe detail. Is that what we're kind of on the inside
I think
leg.
so, because I mean it's only slight on the inside leg, but that quad separation there, like the separation between the quad and the hamstring is quite profound. If you look at Ashley Kaltwasser's front shot, for example, she still appeared to be quite lean, but if you compare, that etching's not quite as sort of there you go. So you can still see the detail through Ashley's front shot, but she is a little bit softer. But that back shot, I can't believe the difference between when she first stepped on stage this year. Mental.
Yeah, it's just beautiful. Is there any other ones from there? No, that's all our tag photos. Just giving a good old stalk. Sorry, Rohan was like literally barking. I don't know if you could hear him barking there.
I thought so.
The hell out of me.
I thought it sounded like it sounded like a bit of a rumble, and I'm pretty sure last time we did a review of some sort, my belly was rumbling. You can definitely hear it, guys. If you go back and listen to some of these episodes, you can hear my hungry belly.
Oh God. But yeah, Issa, absolutely amazing. Let's have a look at Ashley's photos from this year now. Because I think you're right, she is so incredibly consistent, and she's always in that top 3. Like you can't argue with it. But one thing that stood out for me a lot this year with her was her posing. I know we'd actually touched on it in the review, and I know it does come up a lot, and she is consistently working on it, but I really, really noticed it this year. I didn't find it as kind of awkward to look at, and I think she really, really displayed her physique in the best way possible, because we know she has the muscle there. We know that her and Adam have got her peaks down to a fine tune with her condition and all that kind of thing, and it's just sometimes her posing and throw it off a little bit. But this year I just thought she was absolutely beautiful, and even just her face and all that, the beauty and all that presentation, I just think it was absolutely nailed. And I love the bright green suit on her. It really, really stood out on that Olympia stage.
Yeah, the green really suits her. I think it's one of her colors. I know I like her wearing red as well, but green massively is one of my favorites. I mean, interestingly, looking at that cut in terms of the bikini is quite high.
Quite high. Notice that as well.
Yeah. I haven't seen anybody wear anything that high before, but I think in terms of a glute structure as well from the back, I don't think she suffered for it at all. That is incredibly high actually, though. I haven't seen her wear a suit that high. I could be wrong.
I wonder is there anything to it, because like people say it all the time that she does have lower muscle density to the rest of them, and she needs to kind of stand around without like getting absolutely jacked and massively full. So maybe that was a manipulation on Adam's part as well. But I do think
that might be, because
when
I think that might be intentional.
When you do see the back shot there, it does look like her glutes are almost that little bit longer.
Because if you're looking at Maureen, even though she's a shorter athlete, her insertions are quite long. Laurel's are quite short. Jen's are quite short. So in terms of getting that bubble and that full upper outer glute, it's a difficult one. And I said it at the start, like in order for Ashley to come up against sort of the glute size and the structure of these girls, she has to come in with something different. So it could well be a glute a cut in the
Yeah.
bikini that's been very intentional, because she knows who she's coming up against, and she knows who her competition is at this competition at the Olympia. So very, very clever move.
Yeah.
Very clever.
Oh, and she's just so happy, like, to be on
Yeah.
stage. I know we have, you know, sometimes our opinions on her off season and stuff like that, but she just loves being up there and she loves the sport. And I think massive credit to her
It's where she's
for all
happy, isn't it?
that, and just she takes on board the feedback and she just keeps going. And I can't wait to see what her season next year is going to be like.
Oh, honestly, I mean, like I said, this athlete is racking up win
Yeah.
after win after win
Yeah.
after win.
Like,
Could she
I don't think
take
she's
it
slowing
again?
down.
No, not at all. If anything, she's building momentum. So,
Yeah.
I mean, it'd be nice to see Ashley as well. Like, to give her credit, she's the only athlete with 3 titles. She's won it 3 times. Obviously we've got Jen, who's now coming to her second win as well. So to retain any title like this more than once is such an incredible feat, because bikini's evolved so much over the years as well. I think you've got to give Ashley credit for keeping up with that evolution and still placing in the top 3. Like that's a hell of an achievement. And her and Adam, I mean, that just goes to show how much they study the sport and how much they try and apply the feedback and the sort of immerse themselves in the culture, and they know what they're having to bring. So she's so
like,
impressive. She really is.
She represents the bikini, like just bikini in general, the division really, really well.
Start to finish.
Really, like, for so long. So the beautiful Maureen. And you know what? I just love how she is in defeat.
Yes.
And, you know, we had her on the podcast and she spoke about it, and she just loves putting on a show. And I think her attitude towards the whole thing is so incredibly admirable, because I just can't imagine being that caliber of athlete on that kind of stage. And I suppose being as humble as she is, I feel like I might let that kind of pressure get to me, and all the hype and all that kind of stuff. You know, when you're a competitive individual, but she just loves being up there. And of course, you know, there's probably part of her there is quite good, but she said it herself that she just loves putting on a show and performing, and that she ultimately took the title last year, and you can't get much better than that. So outside of that, it was really anybody's game. It was outside of her control. So I think in that sense, she's such a good sportswoman. That what you would call her.
She's got the sportsmanship that this sport demands. Really, you can't. We saw evidence of it on the Olympia stage, not in this division, but at the end of the day, it's how you carry yourself in your losses that matters, not how you carry yourself as a champion, in my opinion. And I think Maureen, she's already done it. In her mind, she's already achieved that goal. She won. Anything beyond that's a bonus. So for her, it's like, I've already done it. What else is there to do? Other than show up, and if I win again, great. If I don't, it doesn't take that win away from me. And I think that stoicism, we've spoken about it, and that sportsmanship, and how pleased she is to be up there. She's a great role model for anybody
she really
coming through.
is, honestly.
If you can carry yourself like that, she's a champ through and through.
So what do you think about her physique? Because I think the one thing that kind of stands out to me is obviously the glute that we're seeing here. And the little bit of a laugh flare that I'm seeing in that front pose, that just kind of throws me off when you compare her to Jen. Like, there's nothing in Jen's physique or routine that I was kind of like, oh, that's, you know, it's a little bit off, like the laugh flare that we can see at the start here. Were you a little bit like, I just thought it looked very figurey, this here. Do you know that? Obviously this is in slow-mo and we're seeing it, but in comparison to what Jen was doing, like, Jen wasn't flaring her lats that much at all. Even in the last couple of pics when she had like her medal on, like, it was very much relaxed. I don't know, is that something that you pointed out as well?
I noticed it at the time. Another thing I noticed with Maureen, unfortunately, because she is such a compact athlete, her waistline looked that little bit thicker this year. I'm not quite sure why. I think there was an issue with her tan as well. Like, even looking at that other picture that you just shown there, Grace, she was incredibly dark. So I don't think that has helped her physique in terms of her proportions, because coming up against the likes of Jen, who has like, she's got at least 2 or 3 inches on her just in a midsection. Any thickness through the midsection, anything like that, when you're standing against the likes of Jen, is going to show. You can see it there. And I don't know whether it's the hair at the back or whether it's the tan. Maybe a combination of the two.
Did seem a little bit different to last year, because I know like even Adam
very
touched on it, like her complexion
yes.
is just beautiful, and it makes her muscle look very beautiful, but I think it kind of hurt her a little bit just standing next to Jen. Maybe it was just a touch dark, and I did find the bikini color, I wasn't mad on it. I think it blended because her tan was so dark. It really blended in. I know obviously there's filters on this photo, but it just blended in with her skin tone a lot. And then the red lips, it was all just very meshed together. Whereas you saw her last year, the pink with the complexion,
everything popped
out. It was popped out. And maybe if there was a little bit of a change in those kind of colors, it would have made her physique look a little bit different, because I do think it does. And with Jen, I think the green really, really stood out. And I know bikini colors, we say all the time, like they do matter, and they matter with your complexion and your skin tone and your hair and everything like that, and your makeup, and even I think with the backdrop of the Olympia thing, which is like I know it's so small, but it does make a difference. And that pink last year really, really stood out, and this year it was just kind of like, it was all one to me when I saw it on stage.
It's a difficult one, because I mean, that front shot there, her waistline just looks a little bit different. I know she commented, I'm sure somebody shared that she might have had a broken rib last year, ironically, when because there was comments about her sort of flaring a rib cage, which were much better this year, but I think she actually might have had a broken rib last year when she won, which is wild. But in terms of her sort of structure and things, like, I think she came and brought a beautiful package. Like I said, I was really on the fence between her and Maureen, because the physiques are so different. But I think those slight tweaks that, I mean, we talk about them at an amateur level and paying attention to those things, but at an amateur level, your comparisons aren't that close. You're still very much building your physique. It's going to be different. You can have an awareness and make sure that you're making choices that prepare you in terms of like your professional career, if you're going to take this seriously. So suit color, tan, all of those things need to be in tune. But at this level, it can be the difference between first or third or first or fifth. And I think that evidently, I don't think Maureen came in too soft. I don't think she came in too hard. I don't think her physique was necessarily off. I just think that a combination of a few things, just her not quite standing out against Jen, unfortunately. Because these girls, if they're coming on, you can't beat them. That's the whole point.
I know.
It's the whole point. Which I do think Jen just, like I said, I had Maureen winning, but I think a lot of that was bias as well. I was just like, I just love her physique.
And you know what, because it was quite late, obviously, into the night, but when the updates had come out, I was drawn to Jen straight away, like, and I agree, there was probably biases there with Maureen, even on the review, but when I saw even the back shot with Jen, she just it just caught my eye, and I think Maureen's glutes, especially in this front shot, I just found to be a little bit flatter. I don't think there's as much of a pop there. I know we had compared it in the review, the difference, but I just think if you look at all of these front shots here, how much the glutes are kind of like popping there, I just don't
that's
see
interesting, actually. Because last year you could really see that glute.
Now whether that's she's built her hamstrings a little bit more and it's kind of just like come into one, but there's not as much of a pop there that you can see with Jen's, and that's just my personal eye, what I'm kind of looking at, and then also the laugh flare a little bit looks more forced. Obviously there's going to be an element with your pose that you are still trying to like make your upper body look a certain way, but not like the excessive kind of flaring here. And I agree, the waistline on Jen, incredibly tight, like
it's just tiny.
It's tiny, but it's also such a pleasing midsection to look at. And I'm somebody, I'm so drawn to midsections, I always have been. And I think it kind of makes the physique, doesn't it, like on stage, and it pulls everything together. And if there's something like a little bit off, I think it could just throws off your eye entirely. And I know a lot of that does come down to genetics at the end of the day. Like, you can only train your abs so much, but Jen's is just a beautiful waistline to look at.
Gosh,
It really,
honestly,
really
it's
is.
tiny. It just completes, like you said, it completes everything.
Right, let's pull up hers as well.
One thing I did really notice about Jen's posing, I think she's got bowed knees, so like hyperextension through the back of her legs. So I remember her first, I think the year she won, actually, if you compare, so she's fixed that front shot, you can see it there. Now, we noticed some posing elements last year in terms of her looking like she was bending and almost sitting into a posing. And I finally figured out why. I think she's trying to fix that. I've finally done it.
I remember you have been so focused on her
why
posing.
Why is she posing like that? Now, it's ironic because I danced for like the best part of 21 years. And many of the girls, I used to be really jealous of girls who had hyperextension through the back of their legs, but I think she lost so much of her glute shape and her sort of rear, all her back line really, when she was hyperextending that knee. So she's fixed it, and I think that's why it looks to our eye, and probably to Jen as well. It probably feels like she's squatting into half of these poses because it won't be a natural thing for her to have that bend in the knee, but it actually looks fantastic.
I can't.
She's really fixed it.
Pull up
an old one
of the I don't know. Is there any like back shots? I haven't seen that many kind of like videos of her back shot, but I do think there was a lot. The posing was improved a lot, and there was way more balance than what we had seen before. It did look like her lower body was just quite big, and her adductors are like almost in your face. But it was very much balanced here with the posing, and also her arm in that front pose. I do remember last year it was kind of coming out quite far, and you could see that in the lineup when all the girls had the arm down by their side. Her arm was a little bit quite kind wide. Of further out, and that kind of offsets then your balance a little bit. Oh, here we go. There's the back pose. But so
she is bending that knee. I think that bending that knee as well. Like, I think she was losing a lot of a glute top line. I mean, I'll say it now because I did notice it last year and this year. There seems to be a bit of an imbalance. I don't know whether it's just the pictures that we're getting in the live stream, maybe the angling of the angling of those pictures and how they're being printed. I don't know, whatever it is. There seems to be a drop on the left-hand side from the back. I don't know what it is. I don't know whether it's the cameraman's fault. And sorry, Jim Mannion, if it's you. But I did notice. But that bend in the knee, I think, has really given her shape through the hamstring and through the glute, comparative to the year that she actually won. And when she's bending, I think that's what's happening.
There we go.
Yeah, you can see, I don't know what it is on that left side. I don't know whether she's slightly offset, therefore the image looks a bit different, but it looks dropped. Do you know? I don't know. Is it just me? Because even a right shoulder seems dropped there as well. Is that an alignment issue? I'm not sure.
Well, she still took it, so
well, that's what I mean. It can't. I mean, it's obviously not. I know,
but
I'm
I think in
really
terms of everything
picky.
else, but that's what it's about. These reviews are about. People are listening to hear all that. But I think what really stood out to me and what had her winning was the condition. I think it was absolutely spot on for bikini, and I think massive well done, and thank you for the judges for getting this right. Because people know what to aim for now, and there's honestly nothing worse than, at all of these even regionals and like pro shows that we're seeing throughout the year, it's incredibly frustrating when you're seeing the wrong thing being rewarded. And we need more of this. We need more of this confirmation to say this is bikini, this is the condition, and this is what you need to aim for, because otherwise it gets lost. And we've seen it getting lost this year, and we need more of more Jens winning to define that so people know, because we've seen it all the time in Europe. The condition is it's just totally off. It's absolutely peeled. Like these kind of physiques, like this last year or two were not getting rewarded in Europe. They just weren't.
No.
So we need shows like this and more Jens kind of winning. And I just think like it's gonna be a massive benefit to people over the next year in shows as well.
Yeah. I mean, if you think about the criteria, so in terms of her back shot there, like she's got a glute ham tie-in, but it's not etched out in any way, shape or form. It's not even a full tie-in on Jen at all. The condition through the back's perfect. There's no capping to her delts. They're lovely and full. Her muscle bellies are lovely and full. There's condition there, but without too much definition, too much density. She's got lines, but they're not. I mean, even in a walk there, you can't really see the quad lines or anything
that's what
like
I was
that.
looking at.
She nailed it.
There was no
Absolutely
feathering. There was no like graininess. Like the vascularity is just as byproduct of like being full, but it's not absolutely peeled. Her midsection is spot on, like with the filling up. It's not watery or anything. It's like what Adam says. It's that kiss of detail. Her obliques look very, very good. Nothing is too much. Nothing is too little. And I just think she nailed it. Posing is beautiful. Just that pretty muscle and her complexion and everything.
And I think the green was such a good call. Her hair, actually, I really noticed her hair when she walked out on stage. I was like, wow. And I think that all adds to her sort of her demeanor on stage as well, and her presence. Like I know Rachel, when we had her on for the predictions and things like that, she just said that Jen's presence on stage, you just know it's her. Like you're taken aback by her being on stage. So it's I just think she nailed it. Everything about it, everything stood out for the right reasons. She was good everywhere, not great somewhere. Like
that's Adam's like quote.
Adam's saying
that's exactly it here, though. Do you know? I think that quote is just like the quote of the year, because it's so true. Like there's nothing that is like, oh God. Whereas with some of the others, you're kind of seeing that. But
your eyes
just
drawn
absolutely
for the wrong
beautiful.
reasons.
The wrong reasons. Absolutely stunning. And I'd say she just feels incredible taking it for a second time, because it's so rare. Like you said, like it really is a rare thing to get it a second time. And I can imagine how she felt last year losing it. So to get it back again, it's an amazing feeling, I'd say, for her.
But did she place top 6 last year?
Came second.
Did she come second? Rory, Jen, yes, she did, of course. Oh my God.
Yeah. So I think she was actually she was quite good with that. I had watched her YouTube, and they're all competitive, but I think Jen in particular is quite a competitive individual. Expects a lot. Like I think her mindset to Maureen's is very, very different when it comes to winning.
She expects and demands more from herself.
That across in her YouTube. So incredible. And the suit color, beautiful. She was like a mermaid.
Stunning.
With the hair, I just think she was like a bikini mermaid.
But the hair stood out so much when she came on stage. Like in terms of styling, like she just needs to repeat this, rinse and repeat, because she looked phenomenal. She really did. So well deserved, Jen. If you are listening, hopefully you are.
Come on the podcast.
Come on the podcast. I've definitely slid into her emails already.
Everyone listening is like, oh my God, guys, come on, pull it out of the bag.
Please get the new Miss Olympia on here.
Oh, I know. If you don't ask, you don't get. But incredible, absolutely incredible. And the feelings after it, just so inspiring, so motivating. And the work that these guys put in. And I think especially because we are so invested in it. Like we really, really are. They're not just... it's not just the Olympia. We're invested in their journeys for years and years and years. And the people listening are so passionate about bikini, and it's just the Super Bowl, isn't it? Seeing all this and seeing their hard work come to fruition, and everything that you've been following and being inspired by for such a long period of time. So it's always nice to witness all this. But we'd love to know your thoughts, guys. Hop off in the comments. What did you think? Do you agree with the result? Were you on the Laura Lee train as well? People love chatting about Ashley, so go on, throw in your comments with Ashley as well. And just give us your thoughts. Anything else you want to wrap it up with, Jade?
No, just a huge congratulations. Like I think top 10 this year I think the judges are just really hammering home the message, and I love to see it. I really do love to see it. These physiques are the top 10, top 16 in the world. 49 in this case that actually showed up to the Olympia. So it's just so nice to see the division and the physiques rewarded in the right way, and irrespective of whatever preferences we may have as like spectators in this sport as well. I just think the right person really did win and take it home this year. And I think
you can't argue with the judges. They're the best of the best, and they're ultimately what paints the division and the criteria and stuff. So no, amazing stuff. But thank you so much, guys, for listening, making this far. This was quite a long-winded one. I know there was a lot of thoughts that we wanted to dump and gather over the last couple of days. So thank you for listening, and be sure to share this on your stories. If you're watching it, we love seeing it on Instagram. Give us a like, follow, and keep up to date with the podcast overcoming the next while, because it's very, very exciting who we have coming on as well. So yeah, thank you so much, and we will chat soon.
Bye.